Federal government announces first Ondo Federal Teaching Hospital at APC mega rally.
The people of Ondo State for finding it important to pledge and get ready to vote for our candidate.
Okpewolo hits the ground running, orders immediate road repairs in Benin City.
In the next few days, people will be working here. We want to follow the president's agenda.
And COP29 breakthrough, new Paris Agreement standards on global carbon market.
It is up to Africa to work and make sure that whatever negotiations, whatever agreement that we secure, that we put it into productive use.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on managing diabetes.
So diabetes is a chronic condition that affects more than 500 million adults globally, and according to International Diabetes Federation, that is, by 2045, we hear that this number could surge to nearly 800 million.
That's alarming, Claire. Diabetes is also the 9th leading cause of death worldwide, responsible for 1.6 million deaths each year, with 79% of cases in low and middle income countries like ours.
Of course, and there are different types of diabetes. And the type 1, which is an autoimmune condition, usually affects children and adolescents. Now the type 2, which is most common and is linked to obesity and of course lifestyle habits, while the third type is gestational diabetes, and it develops during pregnancy.
Well, Nigeria has the highest number of people with diabetes in Africa, with 3.9 million cases as at 2021, and that's according to IDF data. Now, it affects 4.9% of the population between ages 15 and 49. By 2045, we hear that this is expected to rise to 6.7 million, with diabetes-related deaths currently reaching 41,300 annually.
That's quite huge. Now, diabetes patients face numerous challenges, including limited access to healthcare, insufficient education, and awareness. Now, there's also the cost of care to cater for, and some other cultural factors that impact or inhibit health-seeking behavior.
Well, and those key risk factors include obesity. It includes, physical well-being, physical diets, on family history, age, and hypertension, to mention a few.
Of course, when you mention physical health, you're talking about physical inactivity. That's when you don't, of course, use up your stored, sugar. So, on Good Morning Nigeria today, we'll be focusing on managing diabetes in Nigeria. And of course, with the right knowledge and lifestyle changes, we hear this condition can significantly be managed.
Well, we'll explore diabetic-friendly Nigerian foods and discuss how moderation and balance in our diets can make a difference. We'll also look at the impact of different foods on blood sugar levels and hear from experts on making healthy choices.
We crave a lot, Victor, and Africans, we like to eat anything, and
maybe to make it sound like you want it to sound, we chop.
We chop, exactly. And I used a particular phrase the other day: we garbage in, garbage out, and the exigencies of work and times now, do not also allow for balanced, well-planned, balanced diet.
I think the whole essence of this is to crave the right things. If you are prone to diabetes, if you are likely you know, you have it in your lineage because it can be hereditary.
Well,
you know, you crave the right things, and
well, we
you'll
don't
still be
really
fine.
know. So, some people try to, you know, stay away from sugar, and they tell you, okay, you know, I don't take sugar.
Not
For
enough.
instance, if you're taking a cup of tea, you know, some will tell you, okay, don't put sugar. But the impact of diabetes is far more than
Yeah,
sugar
that's not
intake.
enough.
And
Starch intake,
of
carbohydrates,
course,
the
so
amount
many
of
other
it.
things. And indeed, it's called well-planned diet. And, you know, the health managers tell us that that is very crucial for managing diabetes. So today we will be sharing experiences with experts who will also give us some tips on how we can, of course, swallow.
What we call swallow.
Yes, swallow options in a very healthy manner. Of course, take our vegetable delights, fruit choices, lifestyle changes, regular exercises, and most importantly, stress management and medication adherence. That's also very critical.
Well, so we urge you to join us as we delve into the world of diabetes management in Nigeria. And our experts are here with valuable insights and practical tips to help you or your loved ones live a healthier life with diabetes.
Indeed, I'm just wondering, does it really matter the amount of sugar you take?
I think it does. It does matter.
Well,
Moderation is key in everything.
of course, in everything,
Even in the
water,
healthy options.
even in the water that you take, even in the roots and herbs that we take.
Moderation is key.
Moderation is key. So it's not just all about, you know, the amount of sugar you put, for instance, in a cup of tea like this. I do take sugar, but in moderation. Anyway, that's the topic, and precisely today, I think, you know, it's a day dedicated, you know, to, of course, look into this health condition. I am Claire Delapo Abdurrazak, and once again, we do welcome you to the program.
And I am Victor Azul. We welcome you to the program as well. On this World Diabetes Day, we are reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Of course, Chukwudi Okoliubaja should join us at some point for the newspaper review, but that will be immediately after we get news highlights from Comfort and Modu.
I think we need some comforting
morning,
news this morning.
And I'm here to share. Good morning, Victor and Claire. Let's bring you some of the trending stories, with President Bola Tinubu approving the establishment of the first federal teaching hospital in Ondo State, a gesture of appreciation for the people's support of his administration and the All Progressives Congress. In a message delivered by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the APC's mega rally in Akure, the president encouraged residents to turn out in large number to support the APC candidate in the governorship election slated for this Saturday, November 16.
The people of Ondo State for finding it important to pledge and get ready to vote for our candidate, the present governor of Ondo State.
In just 24 hours of assumption of office, the Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo, has ordered contractors in the state to return to sites and immediately fix failed portions within Benin Metropolis. The governor gave the directives during the inspection of roads within the Benin Metropolis.
In the next few days, people will be working here. We want to follow the president's agenda to develop Nigeria. So Edo also will be developed.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed. For the past 30 years I grew up to this, I've never seen a thing like this. A governor that was sworn yesterday, I've started working today.
Our Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, says the intricate process of reading out the flight recorder of the October 24th helicopter crash will begin immediately as proactive measures to publish the preliminary reports within the maximum of 30 days. The minister gave the details in Abuja at a World Press Conference on the development of the search and rescue mission by the ministry, its agencies, and other critical stakeholders.
The United States of America, as the state of design and manufacture of the helicopter, has appointed an NTSB investigator. So we are, cooperating and collaborating with the United States where it was manufactured. And they have actually appointed someone, an investigator, to work with us.
Federal Road Safety Corps Management and Personnel got a thumbs up from the Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs for maintaining professionalism in the discharge of their duties. This was during the oversight visit by the committee to assess the one-year performance of the Corps in relation to budget implementation.
The President will bring the budget likely within this month or early next month. And in all ministries, departments and agencies, budget performance stands at 30%, some of them at less than 30%.
The area where we need to also work on is to build our organizational culture, train them in such a way that they will have a culture of what FRC expected them to be. But with the paucity of funds, we are not able to do that because most of the staff, even after 15, 20 years, some just receive the basic training that they when they were recruited. Outside that, they don't receive any training.
In a landmark decision on the global climate talks, COP29 has officially adopted the new operational standards for a mechanism of the Paris Agreement under Article 6, setting the stage for a global carbon market. This adoption of Article 6.4 or 6.4 achieved during the conference of the parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement sets the stage for operating Article 6, which has faced years of deadlock.
The developed West and the companies and so on, particularly those who have destroyed our environments, should, on the principle of making polluters to pay, contribute.
We have the forest, we have the areas that are helping to absorb the carbons that these people are generating or emitting into the space. So it is up to Africa to work and make sure that whatever negotiations, whatever agreement that we secure, that we put it into productive use.
Those are some of the news highlight at this time. The conversation this morning is managing diabetes. Stay tuned on the program to get practical tips. Good morning.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand, we bet solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
Our food, our health, our tomato paste. There is no tomato paste, the taste of my house. There is no tomato paste, carry.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and God has kept together as one indivisible entity.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Welcome back, and you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Coming up next will be the newspaper review in just a moment.
And we're set for the newspaper review. Of course, Chukwudi Kolubaja is in the studio. Good morning to
Victor,
you.
how are you doing?
Well,
Good
I'm all
morning.
right. And I became better in the moment I saw you walk in the
It's a bright
studio.
Thursday morning. I always look good, like Papa JB,
Now you are getting
right.
it.
One time.
So just drop the Chooks the Boy thing. Papa JB.
I always choose the boy. Claire, how are you doing?
Good morning.
Never likes
It's a bright day, but we thank God. In all things
One
we
day at a
thank
time,
God,
my
yes.
dear.
Victor,
So shall we? Let's begin then with this Nigeria. And just leading with that story, Tinubu enhancing judicial officers' welfare, not pocketing them. And that's according to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. It has 2 riders or 3. Says new houses for judges in FCT in 2024 budget. Set to release 50 vehicles to combat insecurity and scavenging. And then blasts Bauchi Governor Bala Mohammed over PDP crisis. And just beside the nameplate, midnight raid. Lagos arrests 94 rail track squatters. That one is on page 4. An alleged 27 billion naira fraud. Court reserves a ruling in ex-Taraba governor's suit challenging jurisdiction. Page 17. We're working to fulfill all agreements with Labour. That's according to the federal government, and that's on page 5. And going to Ondo State, which happens to be the last story down there. Ondo Guba. Religious leaders call for peaceful election devoid of vote buying. And the rider will be transparent, REC assures electorate stakeholders. That story is on page 14. And then the blueprint is next. The blueprint leads with a story captioned, How Bandits Exploit Peace Deals with Kaduna Farming Communities. That's according to BEPU, B-E-P-U. And you can find details of that story on page 8. And then there is this picture story, of course, detailing the Controller General of Customs program yesterday here in Abuja with the NSA Nuhu Ribadu, who represented the president. With our reforms, Nigeria's FDIs gone beyond $30 billion. That's according to Tinubu. And FDIs mean foreign direct investments. Two riders, customs hit 5.07 trillion 2024 revenue target. FG's debt stock rises to 66.957 trillion naira H1 2024. And which other story here? Okay, let's take this last one. Nigerian lawmakers pressure officials to manipulate budgets for their gains. That's according to Jega, former INEC chairman. I'll leave the rest, hoping that Claire will deal with it over there.
All right, let's look at the Daily Trust quickly, starting with the lead story. FCT houses for judges. Falana counters Wike, insists action unconstitutional. And it comes with two riders there, right in front there. Just below the nameplate, Lukarawa members flee Kebbi as troops intensify onslaught. Details of that on page 5. Gunmen attack army checkpoint in Abia, kill 2 soldiers. It's on page 3. And just down below the headline story, Ondo governorship, 6 hospitalized as thugs attack PDP members. It's on page 10. FG to launch organ transplantation policy in December. That's on page 7. And Reps query Nakan over 90 billion naira Hajj subsidy disbursement is also on page 7. And of course, World Diabetes Day. Patients dying, weighed down by high cost of medications, and the details of that are also on the trending at the bottom there with the two riders. And the story is on page 4. That's the outlook of the Daily Trust. Chukwudi, let's quickly begin again with the Lukarawa members fleeing. And of course, the NSA has said that they will flush out all terror group out of Nigeria.
Yes. And the story actually is not somebody at the helm of affairs, of a security outfit talking about how they are dealing with them. I think this is a journalist's observation. Lukarawa members flee Kebbi as security men pounce on them. So we are talking as journalists, and that gives lends credence, gives credibility to the story. And that, of course, salutes our yearnings for these people not to add to the great injury that has already happened mostly to the north in this country. I mean, it's an overkill. What people are going through from the hands of bandits, from the hands of terrorists, is imaginable, let alone contemplating that another group would join them. It just doesn't make sense to the senses at all, So it's good news for Nigerians, but we will always quickly add that it is not only the security people, that it is their job to make sure that these people do not take roots in Nigerian soil again.
Yeah,
we have to cooperate with them, because at the end of the day, we are the ones they are trying to safeguard their livelihoods.
Sometimes
very important.
We try to find excuses.
Yes.
Designating them as unconventional guerrilla, fighters, and so unconventional means. But this paper, Daily Trust, is reporting that the military is ramping up coordinated ground and air attacks on the groups. So there's a coordinated both air and ground attack. So I think there's need not to give them breathing space, like you said.
Oh, sure.
And don't treat them with kid gloves and say, look, these are guerrilla attacks, so we must apply unconventional. Yes, you must also apply kinetic as well as non-kinetic.
So we must. No, what they are saying essentially is that it's like a symmetrical warfare. The ambush is their first tool of operation. They don't meet you on the field of campaign. But what this means is that we can, with good intelligence, locate them where they hold their meetings and all that. So what it needs is not necessarily boots on the ground all the time. It also means having somebody in civic clothes, blending with them, getting information about them, passing same to the security forces, and you begin to pick them wherever they are engaging their unconventional, whatever we call it. The most important thing is that we make them fodder, because they'll rather go down than we going down. It's as simple as that.
So
Nigerian citizens must cooperate.
Yes, and the other story that I'm just a bit concerned about, or should be concerning to everyone, is the frequent attacks, on security men at the checkpoints. Again, gunmen attack army checkpoint in Abia, killed 2 soldiers. I really don't know what to say to this, but Chukwudi, you are the reviewer.
You see, you are talking about frequent attacks on our security people. It's becoming mostly a Southeast affair now. So it is still that, whatever anyone calls it, against the state and all that. But yes, the lives of our security people, these are people, wives and children told, go come, and they don't return. That's not good. It leaves a sour taste in the mouth. But at the end of the day, what's even more worrying is what the Southeast is subjecting itself to. It is not good for development in that part of this country. It's an ill wind that doesn't blow the Southeast well, neither does it blow the Nigerian security forces well, because some of them go down in the process of keeping law and order.
Sometimes I wonder if the Southeast situation could be resolved, via non-kinetic means. Maybe political resolutions here and there, but whatever it is that brings peace.
Yes.
The state doesn't have to surrender, but whatever brings peace. If we have to talk things over instead of...
I think that talk has to start at the community level in the Southeast. I used a word here the other time. I didn't say it to denigrate my brothers and sisters in the Southeast. I said, equim ne equim is an issue when it comes. You see, the republicanism of the Southeast person, when some Nigerians say the Southeast person is like this, I just laugh. It is in their nature to be self-asserting. That's why they're so successful. The problem is that some of them don't tend to know where to stop it to enhance self-development so that it doesn't become a problem to other people. It's the nature of the Southeast person, Ebano, he believes in himself so much. Even when he goes to a place, the way he behaves, you will begin to think that it's becoming a problem to you, But it's just his nature. So they have to know the kind of messaging, the kind of body language and all that. I don't think anyone actually sets out to commit evil. That's my own opinion about it. It's about rearranging community relations. People should listen to some people. Everybody can become a king in their household. That's what I think. It's my honest opinion.
All right, Chukwudi, thank you. Chukwudi, thank you. We could have looked at the Falana's
yes,
opinion.
the houses for judges.
Yes,
I thought you were going to mention that, but it's okay.
But it's okay.
And then the Super Eagles are going for 3 points against the Benin Republic. You say it's Benin, but they keep writing Benin in Abidjan.
All right.
We wish them luck.
Yes, we wish them luck. This is Good Morning Nigeria. Please don't go away. Today is World Diabetes Day, and we want to share tips with you on how the condition can be managed effectively.
Wow! Evie is so lucky. Everything just falls into place for her.
Yeah, it's like success just happens to her effortlessly.
Hold on, guys. It's not just luck that brings success. Do you know how much work she puts in? Let me show you the truth behind Evie's achievements.
Oh, she works so hard.
Absolutely. It's the small action she takes every day that makes a big difference. Evie's success comes from her dedication and adherence to good values. Small actions every day make a big difference for life.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever. The story of our lives.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
For a certain period of time, shouts of joy and faces of defeat punctuates the daily activities of NEWI. The reason? The Kingsley Obiukwu Foundation Unity Cup 2024.
The vision behind the Unity Cup was simply community development and looking at creative ways in which we can reduce the current high crime rates in Enugu South.
This year's tournament brings together the towns of Amici, Azibu, Ekulumiri, Osumeyi, Ukpo, Akuihedi, Ebenato, Esinifite, Unubi, and Otu.
I feel happy, I feel excited.
The foundation's efforts reminds us that with vision and dedication, local initiatives can create lasting positive change across Africa and beyond. Join us. Let us move forward together.
Well, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And to begin our conversation, which is on managing diabetes, here is a background report put together by our correspondent, Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Diabetes, a chronic condition or a disease in which the body's ability to produce or respond to the hormone insulin is impaired, resulting in abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates and elevated levels of glucose in the blood. It is a condition that happens when the blood sugar, which is glucose, is too high. It develops when the pancreas doesn't make enough insulin. It affects people of all ages. Most forms of diabetes are chronic, though all forms are manageable with medications or lifestyle changes. There are several forms of diabetes, with type 2 being the most common. A combination of treatment strategies can help manage the condition to live a healthy life and prevent complications. Other types of diabetes include type 1 diabetes, pre-diabetes, gestational diabetes, neonatal, brittle diabetes, amongst others. According to Diabetes Atlas, 747,000 deaths are caused by diabetes globally in 2021. 206 million adults are living with diabetes, despite 1 in 2 adults with diabetes are undiagnosed worldwide. Causes of diabetes include overweight, obesity, and physical inactivity. To prevent diabetes, one is expected to reach and stay at a healthy weight, stay active aside eating healthy, and quit smoking. Experts hinted on symptoms to look out for in case of diabetes suspicion, to include increased thirst, frequent urination, fatigue, blurred vision, unexplained weight loss, slow healing sores, amongst others. Now, how best can one manage diabetes? What more should one look out for? Our guests will be answering these questions and more shortly.
All right, thank you, Oyemi Ajayi, for the background reports that you've given us, and of course all the statistics that you have reeled out. We have our guests right here in the studio, and the topic, once again, just for a reminder, managing diabetes. Quickly, let me bring in Dr. Olayiwola Williams. He's a consultant physician and cardiologist, Wusi District Hospital here in Abuja, and we're very glad to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
We also have with us to share perspectives, Priye Ruth Igali, who is the manager at Diabetes Awareness and Care Project, and also Care Project Health Strategy and Delivery Foundation. Thank you very much, Priye, for joining us.
All right, let me also welcome here in the studio Praise Morris Ugama, a dietitian. It's a pleasure to have you join us in this conversation. And joining us from our Kano studio, let me welcome Dr. Mansour Ramalan, consultant physician, diabetologist, and endocrinologist. He is also first Vice President, Diabetes Association of Nigeria, DAN, and Vice President, Association of Clinical Endocrinologists of Nigeria. Dr. Ramalan is Chairman, Non-Communicable Diseases Committee of the Nigerian Medical Association. Quite a lot of caps there. It's a pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Ramalan, to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Dr. Ramalan, it's good to have you with us. It's good we are having you for this conversation, especially on a day like this that is dedicated to create even more awareness. And as first Vice President of Diabetes Association of Nigeria, I'm just wondering if you could share with us the burden of, the condition in Nigeria that we're facing today.
Thank you very much. The burden of diabetes in Nigeria is really quite high. Data is showing that up to 6% of the Nigerian population is affected by diabetes. What is more worrisome is the fact that studies are showing that almost 50% of the people who have diabetes in Nigeria are not aware of the disease. They are not aware that they have this disease. And also that of those number of patients who know that they have the disease, almost half of them are not having good blood sugar control. Suffice it to also mention here that it is being projected that in sub-Saharan Africa we are likely to have an increase in the prevalence of diabetes in the next 10 years by more than 140 to 150%. So this is quite alarming and it's of serious concern to us.
We're trying to work on the audio. Once we're able to do that, we'll return to Kano to speak with Dr. Ramalan.
Yes. Well, back here in the studio, let me just get to Dr. Ayuola. I heard Dr. Ramalan talk about many not knowing they have diabetes, and those who know the blood sugar levels are not well controlled. What does a well controlled blood sugar level mean?
Well, if you're saying a sugar level is well controlled, it means that you're able to return the value to what is normal. Okay, for you to be said to be diabetic means you have abnormal sugar level in your body. Okay, and the aim of the management is to be able to take back the blood sugar consistently back to what normal is.
On a day-to-day basis or over time?
Well, the aim is that when you are well controlled, your sugar level should remain within normal consistently. Do you understand? And that is the objective of the management. Yes, if you're starting from a high level, you may not be able to crash it down overnight. But the objective of the treatment is that as a doctor, you should work such that the level goes back to normal for the patient and it remains normal. And that's why when we consult with patients, we advise them that they must maintain their medication, because there is that temptation that when people get it controlled, they will think that they are cured and they will neglect the use of their medication. But on the contrary, because it's a chronic illness, they need to maintain the drug which gives them.
But what is normal? And then, do you get cured of diabetes?
Yeah, so the normal value for diabetic, depending on what test measure is used. If you use a random blood sugar, it's expected that your value should be less than 7.8 millimole per liter. Okay, and if you're using a fasting blood sugar, it's expected that your value should be less than 6.1 millimole per liter, working with the WHO criteria. And if you use the HB, which is glycated hemoglobin, it's expected that your value should be less than 6.1%. Okay, so the value below this is referred to as normal. Okay, anything above that could either be referred to as pre-diabetic or diabetic, depending on what value.
Yes, Doctor, I'm sure we'll get back to you to even speak more about this, because this is very critical and it's part of the awareness. But I'd like to again go back, to the basics and bring in Priya Ruth, because Priya, you heard Dr. Ramalan talk about the very low percentage of those who are aware, and that's very fundamental, and that's the essence of World Diabetes Day. So when you talk about awareness, what does it entail? What do we need to know? And why are we not aware of some? Yes.
Okay. So I think under awareness, we look at, so from the public health perspective, population-wide knowledge. So, some of the research that we've seen, just as Dr. Ramalan has mentioned, even just looking at pockets of studies, you see, a prevalence or a knowledge rate of about 30%, 40%. So when you meet some people from the population, ask them, what is diabetes? What do you know about diabetes? A lot of people will tell you no. So for example, we are implementing a project in collaboration with the State Ministries of Health for FCT, Lagos, Imo, and Kano. And we had done the first phase, and we had done a preliminary knowledge, attitude, and practice assessment. And we were seeing knowledge levels as low in some communities as 20%.
What are the things you ask? What are the kind of questions you ask? And what are the kind of responses that you expect?
Okay.
Yes.
So, questions like, have you heard about diabetes? And some people will tell you no. Do you understand what causes? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, do you know what diabetes is? Or do you know what causes diabetes? And some people may say, okay, I know it's sugar. Some people may say, I've not heard about it, So those are the preliminary questions. And then when you begin to deep dive into, okay, do you know what the risk factors of diabetes are? You also see that there's still that gap. Do you know how you can prevent diabetes? There's still that gap. So these are some of the things that we, look to address from the public health perspective in terms of awareness. So we can bridge that gap of, underdiagnosis and, just healthy lifestyle practices, yeah.
And I'm surprised, at the level of awareness, because most people you see these days, running away from sugar intake. You see my colleague here is not even taking, he's taking the green tea. A lot of people, will tell you, I don't want to be diabetic, so I don't want anything sugar. They avoid anything and everything that is sugar. And what role does sugar really play in all of this?
Okay. So I think I also have, I think we'll also revert to that question, Dr. Ella, but let me just address, what you've said regarding the, so in urban populations, and I think we also look at socio-demographic factors. We look at people's educational status, their exposure, their occupation. So when you break down the data, you begin to see that, okay, in place, people who are, maybe higher education status, occupation, they are more aware of diabetes. So you have more knowledge rates, on diabetes. But when you look at, rural populations and people with lower social demographic indices, specific occupations, we see that there's, no knowledge scores. So there is really, breaking down the data, you have all these factors, I guess confounding factors as well, but essentially that's really where you see those gaps. And that's why, but it's important that, from the awareness perspective, we don't want to target just a specific demographic. We want to be sure that, everybody knows what diabetes is and everybody can prevent it. So just like, a lot of the doctors have also mentioned, diabetes, a large percentage of it, I think there's a study that reported about 60% of, 60% of diabetes patients prevention can be done in about 60% of people through lifestyle factors. So that's why we focus a lot on prevention. And that's why we focus a lot on awareness messaging. So just letting you know how to live your life, what to eat, encourage exercise and things like that, because a lot of it can be addressed just by, lifestyle factors.
Sounds very easy. Sounds very easy if it has to do with lifestyle. So,
No, it does.
Yes.
It does. I think, well, let me get to the dietitian. I know that lifestyle can be a lot. And that's where we were talking earlier this morning, talking about moderation and, keeping things fit. If you have moderation, I am told, and you diet, you exercise, you should be fine. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. So the thing about lifestyle includes your diet, actually, because diet is very critical here in diabetes. There is a saying that goes, you are what you eat. So this means what you eat directly affects your health. So in diabetes, we try to tell people to be cautious of carbohydrates, right? We don't tell people to abstain from carbohydrates. There's so much misinformation out there, people telling people to abstain totally from carbohydrates, but that's not correct. So you can go for your carbohydrates, but what matters here is the type and what quantity. So in managing diabetes, we tell people to go for more of complex carbohydrates, more than the simple ones. So instead of going for the simple carbohydrates, you should go for the complex ones. So what are complex carbohydrates? These are carbohydrates that takes time to break down, that the digestion is not as fast as the simple ones. You have simple carbohydrates like your simple sugar, your soft drinks, all the sugary candies and so on. So these ones, they spike up the blood sugar immediately because they are simple in nature. They don't need hours to digest. For example, someone who is very weak, if you give the person glucose, the person regains energy almost immediately because that glucose goes very, very fast into the bloodstream. Compared to, let's say, if you give the person yam or rice, these ones take hours to digest because they're complex in nature. So in managing diabetes...
I think, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want you to take it easy and slow so that the message can sink, because what we're creating is awareness. You've talked about complex carbohydrates. Can you break it down so that the layman will understand?
Okay.
Yes, and get the message. What are complex carbohydrates?
So,
yes.
Complex carbohydrates are carbohydrates that have a much more difficult structure to digest easily compared to the simple ones. So, an example of complex carbohydrates, you have your whole grains, you have your rice, right? You have your beans, you have your vegetables also. So when managing in diabetes, we tell people to go more for these complex ones, and also it should be portioned appropriately. So it being complex doesn't mean you should overeat it, because Nigerians overeat most of these foods. We don't usually portion our foods. So portion control is also very, very important, because the end product of any carbohydrate is sugar, be it complex or simple, right? So most people will tell you we don't want to take simple sugar, which is the table sugar, for example, but they tend to abuse these complex ones. They tend to overeat these complex ones. So you can still find yourself in the same situation with someone who takes a lot of the table sugar, right? Because the end product of every carbohydrate, like I said, is still sugar. So we try to tell people to go for the complex ones, and also it should be portioned. And also in managing diabetes through diets, we try to encourage people to consume more of vegetables. So these vegetables, they contain what we call dietary fiber or roughages. So what this fiber does is to slow down the digestion of these carbohydrates so it doesn't spike up your blood sugar, right? So when you eat most of these carbohydrate foods on its own, right, your blood sugar is already impaired. Your blood insulin is already impaired. So when you eat these carbohydrates on their own, it tends to spike up your blood sugar, right? But when you pair them with enough fiber coming from vegetables, right, coming from whole grains, this tends to slow down the digestive process, so leading to a slower...
Yes, can I come in again?
Okay.
Sorry. Like rice.
Okay.
Usually people don't eat rice alone.
Yeah.
You know, they top it with either vegetables.
Usually?
Yeah?
Usually?
People don't eat rice. Do you eat rice alone?
I'm not sure you usually will be the word, because rice and
Jollof
stew
rice?
just go.
No, but that's why I said
that's the usual.
People do. People, not everybody will eat rice and stew these days. A lot of people take rice and vegetable. Rice and stew, beans and whatever. In those cases, please, you need to educate us more, so that, and what portion, for instance.
Okay. So I think the portion, that would actually vary depending on your condition, right? So this is why you need to see the dietitian to get a tailored dietary plan for you, because what works for one person might not work for one person. But speaking generally, right, your vegetables should be as much as the carbohydrate is going with, right? Okay. So you have enough fiber to suppress the carbohydrate load, right? So we have vegetables like the green leafy ones,
ugu,
the spinach, kale, the cruciferous ones like your cabbage, your lettuce, and so on.
Water leaf. Let's call them the names, the local names.
Local names. Okay, you have your ugu.
Yes.
You have your spinach.
Yes.
You have your tomatoes, your peppers,
carrots,
your tatashe, even your onions.
Cucumbers.
Right? Even your onions is a vegetable. So we're able to eat variety, different colors. You have the green ones, you have the red ones, you have the yellow ones. The more variety you tend to eat, the more variety of micronutrients also. Apart from vegetables containing fiber, they also contain what we know as micronutrients. So these micronutrients are very, very important because they help in the normal functioning of the body. You have micronutrients like your iron, you have your potassium, you have your vitamins. These are contained in vegetables. So this is why we tell people to consume lots of these vegetables. They are very, very beneficial to diabetic patients. Right? And also protein. Protein is another nutrient that should be consumed, at least because protein helps in a lot of bodily process. Protein helps to preserve your muscle mass, helps to preserve your lean body percentage also. So in diabetics, I think you need to cut down on your carbohydrates, right? Then you can increase your protein, your vegetables, and little fats. Fat should be minimal. So in order to prevent weight gain. So that's it.
So all that you have said apply with those who are not diabetic for now.
Okay.
We will speak with, speak to those who are diabetic and what should be their, diet plan. Okay. Because I'm not sure it's the same diet plan.
No, it's a similar diet plan.
It's the same diet plan?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Dr. Ramalan, I hope, I don't know if we have you on. Yeah, it's good to have you back. We're sorry for the earlier interruption. Please, can you also talk to us about the economic impact? Because earlier on you were telling us about the burden, and I wanted to ask you, what is the economic burden on the patient, on the family, and on, generally on the economy?
Well, thank you very much. The economic burden of diabetes is enormous because the disease affects the quality of life of individuals, prevents them from going to work, prevents them from doing their usual activities. And on the healthcare system, the diabetes is the #1 cause of preventable blindness globally. Diabetes is also the #1 cause of kidney failure in patients with chronic kidney disease globally. It is the #1 cause of non-traumatic amputations, and diabetes is one of the leading cause of cardiac, ischemic heart disease, that is heart attack, which of course my colleague who is a cardiologist will agree to that. And it's also a major cause of stroke. So in terms of the financial burden on the system, it is huge. It's running into billions and billions of dollars. I've seen estimates ranging between around 100 and 250,000, $1 million annually in terms of cost of the economic burdens of diabetes globally.
Ramalan, let's get back here in the studio just to talk a bit more. Of course, you are not a dietitian, but I know that, of course, you have a sense of all of this. Now, Praise has told us a lot about what we should eat. I'll give you a list of things that maybe, are they no, or you still talk about moderation? Ice cream. A lot of people like to take ice cream. Cakes. Alcohol. Are they forbidden or just in moderation?
Well, the list of what you just gave is mainly refined sugar that he was talking of. Ice cream, cake, or refined sugar. And one, if you are normal, it's expected that you take proactive measure to prevent the development of the disease. Okay? And that active measure that you're taking should not start when the disease have developed, but before the development of the disease. So, in other words, those food substances should be taken minimally for those who are normal. Okay? Then for those who are diabetic, that's not advisable.
Say no.
Yes, because it will spike up their blood sugar. And the more high blood sugar you have, the more you are posing your system to developing complications. Okay? We have some complications that we call asymptomatic complication. Do you understand? You are not showing any symptoms, but the disease is already going on. So that's why that is no for those who are diabetic. But for those who are not diabetic, they can do it, but it has to be minimal so that they can prevent getting there.
No, but I'm sorry, Claire. I've heard someone say, and this is from practical experience, that taking alcohol, of course, in moderation, had dropped his blood sugar overnight.
Now, alcohol...
How is that?
Yes, that can't be correct because alcohol has no place in the management of diabetes. Okay? If, for any reason, alcohol will rather give you impaired blood sugar, okay, because it affects the metabolism in the liver. Do you understand? So we discourage alcohol for people who are diabetic. Then we also advise those who are not diabetic to cut down on the usage of alcohol.
Dr. Yola, I'll still remain with you and look at the red flags. The first sign we saw from the video clip, swollen ankle, swollen legs and all that. But that's what a lot of people know. But Dr. Mansour also talked about impact, blindness, and I'm just wondering, so what are really the red flags, the very salient red flags that should be looked at?
In diabetic patients, usually, one, for those who are diagnosed, okay, the red flags are things like when you begin to have numbness in your leg, okay, walking as if you are walking on a foam. You are not feeling sensation again, okay. People begin to have blurred vision, okay. When you have
for those diagnosed?
Yes, okay. For those diagnosed, where you begin to, even for, some of these symptoms can be seen in the undiagnosed, just as he said that a lot of people are undiagnosed. For the fact that you have not presented yourself to the hospital for a checkup does not mean you don't have the disease, okay? Because some people are undiagnosed, carrying the disease without knowing.
That's why I'm asking the red flags, so that those who are undiagnosed and do not know will begin to look out for these red flags.
Okay, one, it's the issue. Now, when we're talking of the red flag, we looked at what are the symptoms of diabetes, which include increase urination, polyuria. If you begin to discover that you wake up 3, 4, 5 times in the night, you should check it. If you discover that you are always thirsty, you drink so much water, despite the fact that the environment is not hot and yet you're drinking plenty water, that's a red flag. Okay? If you discover that when you develop an injury, it takes a long time to heal. That's a red flag. If you discover that despite your good appetite, you are losing weight and you are not sick, that's a red flag. Okay? If you discover that your vision is getting cloudy, that's a red flag. Okay? If you discover that when you're walking, you can lose your slippers, or you're feeling as if there is no blood in your leg is getting cold, that's a red flag. Okay? If you have some chest pain, that can be a red flag. Do you understand? So all the symptoms that associated with diabetes can be an indication that, look, you have to check for those who are not known to be diabetic.
But you talked about frequent urination, and I know there's some medication for certain condition that also, could trigger,
And then if you take a lot of fluid towards bedtime.
Even if you take a lot of fluid as a normal person, in the night, it is expected that the body will be able to concentrate your urine, so you don't wake up frequently.
Okay.
Do you understand? The word there is frequent. Do you understand? So waking up over the night shouldn't be a problem. Okay? But the moment you discover that from the time you sleep and the time you wake up, you have to wake up 4, 5 times, then that should be a red flag. Something is happening. Even if you take a lot of fluid, that is not normal over the night. Okay? So that's what we call polyuria. Do you understand? During the day, yes, if the weather is cold, you may urinate frequently if you take plenty water. But that shouldn't happen in the night.
And when you are unable to completely empty the bladder all at once, you know that the urine is there. But, per time, you are unable to immediately empty the bladder. Is that also similar to what you are describing?
No, that's not that's not the same. Okay, if you're not able to, most especially for the men, if you're not able to empty your bladder, then we begin to look at another disease condition, which we refer to as prostatic enlargement. Okay, if you have benign prostatic enlargement, that can give you that symptoms of incomplete voiding, not able to. Then that also can make you urinate frequently. But the difference with that is that you're going to urinate, you do little, do you understand, and come back and still feel that it's not as against the other one that you put
everything.
You empty everything and still go back after a short time. Do you understand?
Dr. Yola, I will still remain with you before we come back. What's the nexus between high blood sugar and heart attack or cardiac arrest?
Now, there is a study that shows that 70% of complication of diabetic patient is cardiovascular. Okay, so people who are diabetic have very high incidence of having heart attack, heart failure, do you understand, cardiac arrest. One, because they also are prone to developing hypertension, they are prone to developing dyslipidemia, all right, because all these things are what lifestyle, abnormal lifestyle, defined. Okay, so when
what is dyslipidemia?
Abnormal cholesterol.
Okay,
do you understand? We have bad cholesterol. Okay, which has to do from what you eat, your diet. So when you have bad cholesterol, the body don't have need of it, so they get deposited within the lumen of the blood vessel, thereby narrowing the space that blood can pass through. Okay, and when you're talking about heart attack. It's just that there is a
tightening of.
Yes, differentiation. There is disproportional of supply and demand. The heart needs more, but the blood supply is limited just because they have been narrowing. So when you have this lipidemia, it causes narrowing of your blood vessels, thereby reducing the amount of blood that can get to the heart when the need, the demand arises. Okay, so if that is allowed to continue, it can lead to a point that there will be total occlusion and that person will suffer.
So all of these things can be prevented just by lifestyle changes.
Yes.
Victor?
Well, let me leave Dr. Ayola and come to Priye. Given the prevalence of diabetes in Nigeria, would you say that we are not doing enough publicity, we are not creating enough awareness? Or is it just that diabetes, because I've heard people say it is expensive to diet, it's not easy to manage for those who have crossed that border. It's not easy to manage, and some just say, look, something must kill a man.
Absolutely. So I think it's, from what you've said, it's twofold. But I'll look at it from the first angle of just awareness to the population. I think there's a lot more that we can do. So for example, we had an initiative, the Non-Communicable Disease Initiative, the Multi-Sectoral Action Plan, that looks at other sectors, what other sectors can do in, preventing and just managing non-communicable disease as a whole. Diabetes is a non-communicable disease. So you see that it stems way beyond the healthcare sector. So for example, we want to encourage people to, for active lifestyles. Do we have enough parks available? Do we have enough recreational spaces? Do we have, our information agencies, are we putting this information out there? In schools, do we have, I would say diabetes, but NCD, because as Dr. Ayala has said, they have shared risk factors. So do we have information on, teaching children on how to eat healthy, the importance of eating healthy, the importance of exercising? So that stems across the awareness perspective. So just what can we do as a country? Do we have all those things embedded into already existing programs in different ministries? Are we really looking at that multi-sectoral approach, right? That's the first angle. And then also coming down, I guess just looking at it, even at the healthcare sector, looking at primary healthcare level, when people come in, the primary healthcare level, the first point of care, are they being told about diabetes? Are they being told about, other NCDs and, the shared risk factors? So some of the things that we've also discussed here, I think we've talked about prevention, but there are some non-modifiable risk factors that already predisposition you, to diabetes. So we look at, I think from above age 40, you're already at a higher risk of developing diabetes. So we look at things like that. So from someone coming into your clinic who is 40, are you already giving them that messaging in terms of, you need to watch what you eat, you need to begin to exercise? Those are some of the things that I think we can also look at. And I think that's where we have to do more. There's a lot of initiatives, though, working with the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, as well as, at the state level. We see that, the NCD departments are also very active. And there's now that push to make sure that, there's a lot more prevention-focused messaging. I know recently there was the Project 10 Million that was implemented in all the states of the country, where they had done active screening for diabetes. And obviously in the process of doing that active screening, you're also providing awareness to people. And I think we need to also see and continue to have initiatives like that, encourage or promote the awareness messages or just general messages about diabetes and how to live healthy.
I'd like to talk to you about two things, because since you come in contact, with patients, and of course you are in the forefront of creating awareness, I'd like to talk to you about the nature and content of your messaging. How do you go about it? How do you sensitize people? Does that also contribute to the low awareness rate? And then I'd like for you to also talk to us about the demographic data. You've talked about the rural, demographic and the data. What about gender? What about age factor?
Age factor, okay. So I think speaking to your to the first question that you've raised. So from the work that we do, our projects are implemented at community and at facility level. And what we did is, obviously, we're working in collaboration with the state. We sat down together with the various health promotion units to come up with appropriate messaging. So we want to ensure that the language, working with medical doctors as well, we make the language easy for the layman to understand. I think that's the first thing. And we break it down to look at the risk factors. So we have, we've developed information, educational communication materials that look at the risk factors, and we put infographics out there so people can understand. We break it down to the symptoms, and we break it down to how you can manage it. So I think that's really how our messaging is tailored. And then in addition to that, we've also explored different avenues. We have some programs that go out on radio, so that at least, a lot of people tune into radio channels so that people can also get access to that. And we have, just short segments on some stations. We've had that. We've also had SMS messages that I've sent out to different people. I think almost everybody has access, well, not everybody, but a large percentage of the population has access to SMS messages. So we have systems where we also send out.
So you collaborate with the network
yes.
outfit?
Yes. So our project is implemented in just 4 states. Again, it's a pilot, and we hope that we're able to scale up, and we also work with the ministries to scale up in other states. So I'm speaking this specifically to Kano, Imo, Lagos, and FCT where we work. So we have those structures in place. And then obviously the community outreaches as well. So we have, we work alongside community-based organizations to actually go into the grassroots, do social mobilization. They go to markets, go to churches, go to mosques with public address systems. We have, in places for Kano, for example, we make sure that, that the messages are done in Hausa, right? In the FCT, we also have different languages, within the population of the FCT. In Imo State, in Lagos, the same thing, go to communities with public address systems with those messages that have been tailored so that people can, get more information about.
I talked about demographic in terms of age, gender, and again, those areas that you have visited and those you have come across, what did you find that it's probably peculiar with their behavior and lifestyle?
Okay, so I think speaking to, like I said, I think the first thing we've noticed, or some of the divide that we've seen, is that in terms of knowledge gaps, as I've mentioned before, there's a big discrepancy in places where you have people that are educated with specific occupations. And then you also find that I think roughly older people, also have more knowledge about diabetes. I think there has been some effort, maybe because a lot of them might have contact with hospitals. So some of them actually do have more information on diabetes as well. From the gender perspective, I wouldn't say that there's actually from the gender perspective, a lot of women, I think, also go to have higher health-seeking behaviors in women. So you see that women tend to have more information on diabetes. They know, they've heard about it. They may not know the specifics, but at least they've heard about it when you look at it from that perspective. So women, people in urban populations, and then I would say the older demographic as well seem to have more knowledge, and I think adhere a little bit more to lifestyle practice. Of course, a lot of these things are community self-reported. It's what you tell me that I will know, but at least from the conversations that we have in the community, this is what we see.
All right, thank you, Priya. Let me get to praise again. Would you recommend, for instance, intermittent fasting to manage diabetes? And now, why do I ask? You've reeled out a number of things a Nigerian can eat and how they should eat it. You may find yourself as a Nigerian out of Nigeria, and these things are not available. So would intermittent fasting be a measure that, could fill in the gap?
All right, so before you commence intermittent fasting, it's good to get medical advice from a doctor because it's not suitable for everyone, right?
And why is that?
So medical conditions might not be compatible with intermittent fasting. It could lead to complications. Yes, intermittent fasting is good if you do it maybe, let's say, once a week. Once a week is fine, but it should not be something that's recurrent. Maybe you do it 3 times in a week, 4 times in a week, and so on.
Or even every day.
You actually have to eat if you're diabetic, because having high blood sugar is one thing, and sometimes these diabetic people, they take drugs too that try to bring down this blood sugar. So when you don't eat over a long period of time, most times you can even develop low blood sugar.
No, let's break this down.
Okay.
Now, when we say intermittent fasting, there are models, right?
Yes.
Different models. Let's say you adopt 16-9 or
Okay.
16-8, rather.
16-8.
16-8, you take your breakfast, say 11 a.m. That means you could still eat. The 8 hours could take you to 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
How is that detrimental?
It shouldn't be a daily thing because your body actually needs nutrients. You actually need to eat daily. So even if you have to do intermittent fasting, it should not be a daily thing. And also you should get the advice from your medical advisor, let's say a doctor, right? Or a dietitian, someone who is managing you. Because like I said earlier, intermittent fasting is not for everyone. Some people can develop low blood sugar by indulging in intermittent fasting. So before you go on that, you should get proper medical advice before you go on to do intermittent fasting. But yes, I propose it to some of my patients. If you can do it, like I said, once in a week, it's fine. It also helps in weight loss because in managing diabetes, weight loss is very, very important. It's very crucial. This is why we tell people to limit down on fatty foods, high caloric foods, foods that will increase your caloric inputs. So when you cut down on this food, you tend to achieve weight loss on the long run, right? But when you consume most of all, when you eat anyhow, you take high fatty foods and all this could lead to weight gain. So falling back to what I said, so weight loss is also very important in diabetes, right? So when you lose weight, your blood, the insulin sensitivity increases. Your blood makes sure your body uses up the sugar faster than when it was when you were way overweight, right? So this is why weight loss is also very, very important in managing diabetes. And on the intermittent fasting, before you commence on intermittent fasting, you should get proper medical advice from a doctor.
I think you are the very, very critical leg that we have on this program today. So we will come back to you to put all of this in perspective. Before we go, we still have quite some time. But let us bring in Dr. Mansour into our conversation once again. And Dr. Mansour, thank you for your patience. And I'm just wondering if one is diagnosed of the condition, is it reversible? And secondly, we hear patients, pay a lot out of pocket, to get treatment. Why is that?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity again to speak. For most part of it, if somebody has been diagnosed to have what we call pre-diabetes, that type of diabetes is to some extent reversible through some lifestyle changes, and some studies have shown some medications can also be useful. But for those with diabetes, to some extent, it's not really reversible, although there are some types of diabetes that have been shown to be reversed. Because diabetes, there are many types of diabetes. We have type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, gestational diabetes, and other forms of diabetes. Again, those who are overweight, who have had significant weight loss, have been shown to also have some degree of reversibility. And there are some studies that have shown that individuals that were on very low caloric diets, like 1,200 kilocalories per day, have had diabetes reversed. And for the expenditure, in terms of out-of-pocket expenses, quite a number of patients that are having diabetes do not have appropriate access to medications. In fact, recently we are having a lot of challenges with our patients not being able to afford these medications because the cost of the medications have skyrocketed. Some of the companies that are importing these medications have left the country. They are no longer operating in Nigeria, so they are using what we call third parties. And you know, the more these parties are involved in the business chain, the more expensive the cost of these medications is to the end users. In fact, even drugs like insulin that some of them need for survival are now way beyond the reach of these patients because the prices have gone up by up to sometimes 400, 500 or even 600%. So they are dealing with poor access to these medications. They are also dealing with affordability. And we know that the insurance scheme in Nigeria is just, you know, the coverage is actually very small. I think I don't think we're up to 5% of the population. And the patients are actually complaining to us seriously. Some of them are on their own reducing the dosages they are taking for the medications. Some are actually not able to take the medications at all. And some of them are virtually struggling to even feed because, like my colleague, my co-presenter Praise was talking about lifestyle and diet. You will note that for the patients with diabetes, the type of food they need to eat is not naturally the same. I mean, the same kind of food that we eat every day. So some of them are struggling to actually even feed. So these things are a serious challenge. And to wrap up what I've said now, I mean, the theme for the World Diabetes Day for this year is diabetes and well-being. So as an association of the Diabetes Association in Nigeria, we are worried that the well-being of patients with diabetes is being compromised because they can not afford these medications, and some of them are even struggling to feed as we speak.
Malan, thank you very much, but let me stay with you. You know, in the course of this conversation, from all that we have said, we talked about risk factors, we are talking about weight, we are talking about lifestyle. Is diabetes hereditary? Can it be inherited from your parents, for instance?
This is a very important question, and I'm happy that even on your panel here, you have dietitians, you have cardiologists, you have public health educator, and myself, diabetologist. What this speaks is to the fact that diabetes is a multifactorial disease that has a lot of risk factors. So some of the risk factors are genetic inclined in such a way that they are called non-modifiable because we can't do much about that. Yes, there can be some form of genetics involved in diabetes, and it is known there are some genetic disorders that can predispose to diabetes. And some people actually have family history of diabetes, and that predisposes them to diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes and gestational diabetes. There are also some genetic disorders that are associated with diabetes. There are some genetic diseases that predispose some individuals to obesity, predispose them to diabetes. And obesity, we know also, is a risk factor for diabetes. Although it is complex, it is known that genetics and hereditary can predispose individuals to diabetes.
Let's get back, Dr. Ayola. We have talked about types of diabetes. Autoimmune condition affecting children and adolescents. We also have the common one, you know, linked to obesity, and then the gestational diabetes that develops during pregnancy. Could you just briefly, you know, let us into, you know, these different types and, you know, what is the degree of impact?
Okay. The first one is the autoimmune disease. It's basically the type 1 disease, which is commoner in the younger age group, okay? And as the name implies, the body stimulates, you know, some fight against itself, you know, attacking the organ that produced insulin, which is the pancreas, okay? So the pancreas gets destroyed, okay, and it's not able to produce insulin, okay? And that's why people who have type 1 diabetic, we need insulin for survival, okay? But the second one is the type 2, which is the most commonest type of diabetes that you see all around. Okay, and that's the major one. That one has risk factor. Okay, and the cause of that is that there is a deficiency in insulin production or a defective in insulin action. Okay, so that's what leads to type 2 diabetics. I know. And for those group of people, family history, it's a risk factor. When you have family history, when you are obese, those who are obese, that also increases your risk. When you have hypertension, that increases your risk. Okay, so for this group of people, we advise that they take proactive measure. Okay, for instance, when you have family history, when one of your parents is diabetic, what it means is that you as their offspring, your chances of becoming diabetic has increased. Okay, so you need to take proactive measure to make sure that you begin to do the lifestyle modification before you develop the diabetic. Okay, then we have the gestational diabetic, which is seen in pregnant women. Okay, because of some hormonal changes in them. When they are pregnant, they begin to have poor usage of the glucose, so their blood sugar level increases. The good thing about this group of people is that after delivery, their blood sugar will go back to normal. Okay, but there have been studies that shows that some of them later in life will develop type 2 diabetes.
No, sorry. Why is it that the last thing we know or we see is the swollen ankle? That is the most, the common symptom.
Yeah.
At what stage is that?
When your heart is beginning to be affected. Do you understand? Then you begin to see swollen ankle. Okay, by the time you're having swollen ankle, we have to check your heart. Most likely some heart failure is beginning to set in. Okay, of course, people who are obese also can develop swollen ankle after long sitting. Then also people who have some kidney disease, because these are some of the complications that comes with diabetes. Okay, heart failure, kidney disease. So when these organs are affected, then you begin to have the swollen legs.
I was going to ask earlier, you have parents who never in their, for a long stretch in their active days, never had issues with diabetes, right? But in their old age, they were found to have diabetes. Would you say it is the case that they were not found at that time when they were active, or that this has become part of the old age thing? You will respond to this question, but after we return from this break. Please stay with us.
Well, creativity is so broad. I would say whatever it is that you're creative about, it takes a lot of practice before you become very good. So if it's something you intend to pursue, it's something you have to keep doing. You have to keep practicing. It's not going to be an overnight success, which a lot of people look for. But if it's something you're determined about, but the drawback rather, is that you need what is called staying power. While you're developing your creativity, you need to earn a living. So I know that's where the conflict usually comes in, especially with the hardship in the country and all that. But I think a lot of encouragement from the private sector to create incubator hubs. We've had some of those in tech. We need those across various sectors as well. Incubator hubs where these ideas can come in, be developed, be encouraged, be funded, and then we can expand it from there.
Content creation, while it may sometimes get a bad rap, I think it's actually very important because we have to see ourselves. We have to see ourselves living our lives. We have to show and share our stories. I think that's very important. Now, the job after that is to be able to digitize those stories into something that can provide data and insights, that can ensure that we can be able to support whole-scale industry in these spaces, to ensure that the amount of money that each content creator is getting exceeds what is currently happening for many content creators. The same content creator who lives in Nigeria will be earning less than a content creator who's living in the US or the UK or Japan. And we've got to also bridge that gap, because most of that is being driven by the ability of the consumers to pay for those goods, and also the pricing that many of these platforms have. So I think this is not the job for the content creators and the young people. This is a job for people like myself in the ecosystem who can help support the right pricing, to advocate for the right policies, to support economic development for consumers who want to consume that information and that content. And even beyond content creation, we're seeing that many people are stepping in behind the camera. They are producers, editorial, they are graphic designers, they are in technology, but maybe not in front of the camera. And what we want to say is also, we need those people too. We need those stakeholders involved. And the job of many policymakers, DFIs, is to ensure that the strategic investments get there, the collaboration gets there, and we're deliberate in how we're saying we want to support innovation in our continent.
There's an age group where your brain function is at its maximum, and that's the age group we call the youth, isn't it? So we need the youth, the younger generation, who have the energy, the imagination to be equipped with the proper education, the proper tools, the proper encouragement, and then take what innovation they bring out and turn it into mainstream developmental ideas. So you find a lot of things that are invented by people in school or straight out of school. We need our patent laws to work so that they can earn a living from their imagination. Once the imagination is just for a one-year festival or an event, then it's not worth it. Somebody creates something, we need to get our patent laws to work, we need to enforce them, and then the private sector can use those patents to develop things and encourage more people to be more creative. Back in the days, yes, you had to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor. Today we have programmers, we have AI specialists, we have people that are doing ethics on genetics. Those things didn't exist 50 years ago. So there are new areas that need to be explored. The question really, apart from the parenting, does our educational curriculum cater for what the needs of the world will be in the next generation? Because our curriculum is dealing with the issues of the past. We need the government and the private sector to redo the entire educational curriculum to be forward-focused, not retroactive.
It's quite a pleasure to have you rejoin us on Good Morning Nigeria, where we've been discussing managing diabetes. And just before we went on break, I had asked Dr. Ayola if we could say that parents who develop or who are found to have diabetes at old age, when they've never had it in their youthful life, would we say that, well, they weren't tested or they weren't found when they were active, or is it, can you say it is old people's sickness at that stage?
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, I want to approach it by looking at the risk factor of diabetes. Because by the time we looked at the risk factor, we will now see why they can develop diabetic in old age, despite the fact that they were not diabetic in their youthful age. One of it is age. The older you get, the higher your chances of developing diabetic, because at that point, the degenerative process starts setting in, even with the organ system in the body. That's one. Then another risk factor is sedentary lifestyle. Okay, the older you get, the less active you are. Okay, because you're not doing any work. Children are there sending allowances to you, you know, so you may stay indoor all through. So you tend to live sedentary life. Then another thing also is your diet. That's the point that you are eating everything that they bring your way, okay? Maybe the money was not there when you were younger, and now you want to enjoy. In fact, some say now they are reaping their dividend, okay?
The fruits of their labor.
Exactly. Meanwhile, that is the age that you don't need much because you're not doing much, okay? So you tend to burden the system with what you eat, okay? That's another thing. Then exercise is also important in, preventing diabetes. And this is the age that you are not doing exercise. The older you get, this is the age you are not doing exercise. So in summary, the lifestyle, okay, of aged people and old people is another risk factor that can make them develop diabetes despite the fact that they don't have it. So I want to encourage everybody. You can see that our former president, President Olusegun Obasanjo, sometimes we see him playing football and all those things. Yeah, so old people need to be active to be able to prevent the development of diabetes.
Okay, I want to go back to our Kano so that when we come back here, of course, we'll be coming back towards the home stretch. Let's bring in Dr. Mansour again. And Dr. Mansour, from the individual patient perspective and then the policy perspective, how can diabetes patients live healthy?
Thank you very much. From the individual patient's perspective, diabetes patient can live healthy. In fact, like we said previously, quite a number of these patients are not even aware that they have diabetes. And the lifestyle that is advocated for them is a lifestyle that will lead them to live a near normal life like every other individual. Once they are able to achieve good blood glucose control, their activities, their health status will be similar to those of the general population. The only challenge and problem they have is if they are unable to maintain or get to have a very good blood glucose control. And I like the fact that my colleague, the cardiologist, mentioned consistent normal blood sugar control. This is the key. Once we're able to achieve that, they can live a near healthy life like every other person. The women get to have children, live their lives, the men continue their work, and without any problem. The only problem is when the blood glucose levels are not maintained at the near normal or almost normal levels.
I talked about the policy perspective.
I didn't get the second part of the question because the audio is not too audible. Part of the question.
What about the policy perspective? From the policy perspective, from government's perspective, is there anything that can be done? You talked about earlier on the limitation of the insurance scheme, and a few days ago, other professionals in other health sectors, were advocating inclusion in the insurance NHI scheme. Some of the health, conditions and all that. Is this one of those that you would advocate to also be included as part of the NHIA scheme?
Very much. In terms of the policy aspect, I'm going to speak to two parts. One, with respect to the health insurance scheme, some of the drugs management used in the treatment of diabetes are part of the scheme. And the problem of recent has been the rising cost of these medications. So we would want to advocate that even the newer agents that have been found to be more effective needed to be included. Secondly, there is this sugar and sweetened beverages tax that was passed into law sometimes in the past administration, which of course was continued into this administration. But since April this year, I think they stopped deducting these funds. So we believe that the government can go back to look at these taxes because the law that was passed was mandated that a certain amount of money will be taxed on companies that produce these sweetened beverages and sugar products, so that this tax money can now be diverted into care and prevention and treatment of non-communicable diseases, not only diabetes, but we believe that diabetes should be number one. Of course, everybody knows why sugar is important in the pathogenesis of diabetes. And we have seen recently that the government has introduced free cesarean section for women who are pregnant and need cesarean section. We believe that the government has the latitude, the ability to do more for patients with diabetes, considering, I mean, if they can do that for women who are pregnant and desirous of cesarean section, which is even more expensive, we believe that such a gesture can be extended to patients with diabetes. Or in another way, we believe that there are certain things the government can do for patients with diabetes. Let me also state there that I've had a working experience in one of these Arab countries, I mean Egypt to be specific, and there are patients who are below 18 years of age and need insulin are given insulin free. So I don't think that we cannot afford it. I believe that Nigeria can do something similar to this. I believe with the right attitude, the government has a responsibility to making sure that our patients have better access to these medications and probably more affordable access to these medications. And lastly, when these medications become very expensive, chances are there that counterfeit medications or substandard medications will flood the market, and that may compromise our genuine effort in making sure that these patients have better sugar control and have a healthy living. And I just want to correct the data I quoted. I quoted 6%, but I saw that it was written on the news bar around 60%. The prevalence we got from pool of studies that we did in Nigeria, we pulled studies pocket of studies that have looked at prevalence of diabetes, and we got around 5.77%. That's roughly around 6%. So that is the data that is currently available.
Thank you very much for those insights. Back here in the studio, let me get to praise. And that's because we've talked about exercising a lot, but not every exercise is suitable for everybody. And so I would ask, what kind of exercise do you recommend to your patients? And then what stress management techniques are appropriate?
All right, so I'll start with the types of exercise. So in managing diabetes, most diabetic patients are usually overweight. So we try to recommend exercises that can tend to bring them down to a normal weight range, right? So here you look at light cardio exercises like brisk walking, right? Jogging, dancing. So exercises must not really require use of
Lifting
heavy
weights.
weights, exactly. So all these exercises on the long run, they can help to make sure the weight is being reduced to a normal weight range. Then talking about the stress management. So stress management is very, very important because when you don't manage your stress very well, it increases what we call cortisol, which is also known as a stress hormone. So this stress hormone, it makes diabetes worse because it makes sure there's always sugar in your blood, right? So stress should be managed properly. So you can manage your stress by relaxing. You can go to a park with your family. You spend time, you relax, right? You can go to a cinema, you watch movie for 2 hours, right? You can go to maybe to a fancy restaurant with your family, with your partner.
Spoil yourself.
Yes, but on healthy diets, right?
On healthy diet.
Very, very important, on healthy diets.
You are not spoiling yourself. You are repairing yourself.
So you can also go to like a sports event to go and watch, let's say a football match, maybe tennis, to go and watch. So these are ways we can manage our stress levels. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, okay. Priye, I'll keep you on hold because we're still coming this route again. Let me ask for the last time in this program, Dr. Ayola Olaiwola, to also again give us the last sound of warning. Why is this a time bomb, and why is this awareness necessary?
Yeah, it's a time bomb, and the awareness is necessary because if you ignore it, does not mean it's not existing. If you're diabetic, and because sometimes people shy away from the truth, And when you shy away from the truth, does not mean it is not a truth. You understand? So when you ignore diabetics, you have a barrage of complications that can develop. You know, we have group of complication we refer to as microvascular. We have group we refer to as macrovascular. Okay, things like the blindness, things like kidney failure. Okay, things like neuropathy. Okay, for men, the weakness in the other room can just be one of the complications of diabetes. Do you understand? Then, if you shy away from it, these things are bound to happen. And the ultimate end point will be death. Okay? Of course, that is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to make sure that people, just as the diabetologist said, that the theme is diabetes and well-being. We're trying to make sure that people live well, they are able to achieve their vision, they are able to achieve their goal. But if you have disease, I can assure you that whatever plan you have will be truncated because you want to do what you don't have the ability to do. And that's why it's very important that people take every measure to prevent it so that you don't have all these complications.
Is sleep a factor in diabetes? Sleep or lack of it? Is there a sleep pattern that is recommended?
Well, it's recommended that everybody have a normal sleep, a good sleep, okay? Because sleeping is like rewinding. After working all through the day, you need to regain your energy to be able to go. Yes, to reboot or to reload, as one drug, captioned there, so that you can go further. Now, you discover that when you're sleeping, all your system goes down. Your heart rate reduces, your breathing reduces, your sugar usage reduces, all in the effort for the system to gain energy for the next day. So sleep is very important. By the time you are not sleeping, then you are putting stress on your system. And when you have stress, your stress level is high, you have the stress hormone, which are counter to insulin action. Do you understand? They antagonize insulin action, so your sugar level will heighten. Now, you said how much sleep is necessary. It varies with age. Do you understand? The number of sleep you need varies with age. But for adults, averagely, you are expected to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep. But again, it depends on your work.
Okay, let's just take the last question from Dr. Mansour before we come back here. Dr. Mansour, if you may, in just 1 minute or 60 seconds, is there any advanced technological breakthrough in treatment that we're not yet aware of here?
Currently, there is this stem cell research that has been shown to actually cure type 1 diabetes, and there are also breakthrough in stem cell research with respect to type 2 diabetes. However, we know it will take some time before some of these things get to our part of the world, and even in places where these things are available, they are not yet readily available for all the patients. So to answer your question rightly, yes, there are some breakthrough and positive development in the areas of diabetes research, and we hope that in the future we will have good news to come out of these numerous efforts that are ongoing to develop model and novel treatment options for diabetes. And I want to use this medium to invite my colleagues on the discussion panel to join our Diabetes Association of Nigeria so that we can advocate and work in the interest of the patients and the general public. Thank you for the time.
Very much. Now, as we round off this conversation, let me quickly get to Priya. What do you tell if you come across a newly diagnosed diabetic? What do you tell such a person?
Okay, thank you very much. So usually we start with counseling, just like we've talked about. We talk about the lifestyle. So we encourage them, to eat healthy, just as Praise has mentioned. We've talked about all those things, so I won't go into it. We also talk about physical activity. We encourage them to exercise, but then we also encourage them to go to a health facility, to go to the hospital, so they can have, they can actually meet with a doctor who would, start a whole course of management. Because for some people they may require an initial dose of, medication, and then from there it can be managed appropriately by the doctor. So this is the first piece of advice that we usually give.
Thank you. Praise. We're back to you now for the final question, and if you can do that in 60 seconds for us.
All right.
First of all, food is driving inflation, so you know the cost of food items.
Yes.
So how can individual diabetic patient maintain a balanced diet in the midst of rising food prices? And then secondly, please just give us in summary form those do's and do nots.
All right. So talking about the food prices, the thing is most of the natural foods we have, the unprocessed foods, they are quite less expensive than the packaged ones, which would even worsen the diabetes. For example, most packaged cereals, most packaged drinks and all that, they are way more expensive than the yam you can get in the markets, than the sweet potato you can get in the markets, right? Than the rice you can get in the market.
Some will say less expensive is relative these days.
Yes. Please, could you talk directly to Nigerians? Yes.
All right. So the food options for diabetic patients, we tell them to go for unprocessed carbohydrates, right? These carbohydrates that have not gone through so much refining process, that still have some of the fiber in them, that don't have the colorants, the preservatives, the preservatives. For example, your yam does not have an expiring date, right? But most of these cereals you buy in the market, they have expiring dates, they have colorants, they have other chemicals added to them. So we tell people to go for more of these unprocessed carbohydrates. Go for vegetables. It's very, very important. It's a good source of fiber, and fiber is very necessary in diabetic management. Vegetables also contains micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, right? Then lean protein. Lean protein is also very important. When we talk about lean protein, we talk about protein without the extra animal fats, which contains saturated fats, and which can also worsen one's health condition. So lean protein, you have your chicken without the skin, your turkey, you have your plant proteins, your soybeans, your legumes, you have your yogurts unsweetened, right?
Okay.
Goat meat falls under the same category with the beef.
And there are portions of cow meat.
Yes, also. So if you have to go for beef, it should be the muscular part, right? The parts without the extra fats.
Ginger.
Yes, and it should not be recurrent.
Praise Maurice Ugoama.
Yes, ma'am.
Ugoama.
Yes, ma'am.
A dietitian.
Yes,
I'd like to appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for all the good diets that you've rolled out, and indeed some of those are grown in our backyards.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to say something?
In 10 seconds.
We have a walk.
Yes, please, quick.
Yeah. Okay, so I think just to summarize, we have a walk.
You have to do it in less than 30 seconds.
In less than 30 seconds, okay. So we're organizing a walk on Saturday, Diabetes Awareness and Care Walk, which will hold at Old Parade Ground at 8 a.m. We encourage people to come. There'll be free screening and just really to raise awareness. We'll have enough information.
All right.
Thank you.
Priye, thank you. Of course, Priye Ruth Igali, Manager, Diabetes Awareness and Care Project, and also Care Project Health Strategy and Delivery Foundation. Thank you. Let me also appreciate Dr. Mansoor Ramalan, Consultant Physician and Dietologist and Endocrinologist, FET Vice President, Diabetes Association of Nigeria. You joined us from our Kano studio. Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, but certainly not the least, Dr. Ayola Olaiwola Williams, Consultant Physician and Cardiologist, Wuse District Hospital here in Abuja. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today, this Thursday. I trust you enjoyed it. Do join us again same time tomorrow for another edition. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak.
And I am Victor Azu. Do enjoy the rest of your day.